This is the Mitchell Field Committee special meeting regarding, the date is August 29th. It's 3:40 p.m. And we have 8 members attending by Zoom, 7 members by Zoom, and 1 member is by Zoom and telephone. So that'd be Kathy Goodrich.
Yep.
So attending are Bob Anders, Spike Heibel, Mose Price, Jay Khalil, Phil Connor, Sharon Emig, Don Miskell, Matt James, town planner, and Kathy Goodrich by phone. Dave Zamorowski is not attending the meeting. So the purpose of the meeting is to respond to the draft warrant articles for the special town meeting that refer to or pertain to the boat launch, which is 1 article, 2 articles about the administration building, and 1 article about the solar project proposal. So I want to go by in order. So we'll start with the boat launch, and what we're going to do is to simply review the questions, the warrant articles, and make any recommendations about them to the town. We're not here to debate whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. We're just here to give the town feedback on it. Did they make an error in any way? What do we think needs to be taken out or added in or whatever? But we're not going to, we're past the stage of debating what we think about the articles. It's just questions. If the articles, if you like the article, then it's fine. We can all decide. I don't think we're going to take a vote on them. I think we're just going to see what the group consensus is, and we'll just similar to what we did with the MCOG report. Does that sound okay to everybody?
Fire away.
All right, fire away. So let's start with article number. Let's see, what did I do with mine? Now I'm being a dummy. Here we go. Pull mine up too. So the first one is to see if the town will vote to authorize the issuance of general obligation bonds or notes in the name of the town of Harpswell in a principal amount not to exceed, and the amount will be filled in, to be combined with existing town appropriations and state grant funds for the construction of an all-tide boat launch at Mitchell Field. I think it makes perfect sense that the town add a financial statement relative to what the costs of the boat launch are, what we have for funds, existing funds, and what the ship grants appropriations would be. So all they have to do is come up with a number to insert there, and I think I'm not sure exactly how they're going to get that. I mean, I think it has to be based on what we've heard so far of somewhere around $1.8 to $1.9 million. So the principal amount for the bonds would be somewhere in the $800,000 to $900,000 range, I guess. But that's really up to the treasurer to put that number in. So comments on that article?
I have one. I have a question, actually. This is presupposing that we're going to get the state money and it's all going to work out the way we had originally planned, except we don't have enough total money. It's not the town going out on its own to do this. It's still going to involve the state.
Correct. That's what the combined with the existing town appropriations, which is our reserves that we have, the town has already approved, and state grant funds. So those 2 things go with it. Okay. And the state's going to hang in there with us until the November ballot, see where we are with that.
All right. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, so we'll just, Phil?
Muted, Phil.
Unmute. I'll learn how to work this eventually. Has anybody done any sampling of opinions around town?
Regarding what?
Regarding, yeah, exactly. What?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes there's some issues about Mitchell Field. I have ran into some people that didn't think much of Mitchell Field that lived over on Cundy's Harbor, and I understand that's not unusual. Is that a problem, or not worrying about that?
That's not for us to consider here today. I mean, that's what happens at at the town, the special town meeting, is that people will show up to vote, and they'll vote what they want to vote. But we don't have anything to add to the warrant in that regard.
So we're more worried about punctuation.
Well, punctuation and whether they've got the, for instance, Moses' question is a good question. So, but yeah, we're not here to discuss the politics of it. We just need to let the town know whether we think that the wording is good and covers the bases and does what we hope it will do.
Those issues were raised a long time ago. Phil, when they first presented, probably before a lot of you were on the committee, when they first presented the boat launch, probably 6 or 7 years ago, there were meetings held at Cundy's Harbor, in Bailey Island, Kellogg Church, to just present what we were doing and what the intentions were.
But we had that survey that turned out, we interpreted that as positive for commercial fishermen anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think anecdotal information is what we're after today. I mean, we've all heard comments about a lot of things at Mitchell Field, and those can be brought up at the special town meeting when the warrant articles are called.
Have they stated whether it's going to be a town meeting or these are going to be ballot votes?
I have no idea. I'm guessing that it's going to be a town meeting. I think that's been, you know anything about that, Matt? Okay.
That could be.
Yeah, I believe it's going to be, get up and come to the mic, state your name, where you live, and what you think. Okay, so anything else? Okay, so we'll just recommend that the article go as presented. That be fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. The second one is article number 3, which is to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to give a nonprofit entity with 501c3 status up to 1 year to present a proposal to the select board for renovation, management, and use of the administration building at Mitchell Field, including evidence of adequate funding to complete the project. So that's just what it is. The only thing I can think of is that they need to include cost estimates per the MCOG and Beacon reports that speak to, what those numbers will be. And I think the town should, as with the boat launch, should have some statement about that. I think, Don, you agree with that?
Yeah, I thought that, each of those, I mean, the people are going to ask how much is all this costing and how much money they're going to raise. They could attach a financial statement, here's what the cost estimates are for each one of those, using the numbers in the MCOG report for the first one and the numbers in the Beacon report in the second one. We're talking about articles 5 and 6 on that sheet.
Articles 5 and 6. What are you talking about? We're discussing Article 3 of the draft warrants.
Article 3. All I have is a sheet like this. Work. Oh, well.
These are draft referendum articles for discussion and consideration by the select board for possible November 5th, 2024 vote.
I have 7 draft articles on the list that you sent.
Well, do you have the one that I quoted? To see if the town will vote to authorize? Okay. Well, let's just stick to that one.
Okay, article number 5.
Read me article number 5 that you have.
To see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to give a nonprofit entity with.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. We're talking the same language. Okay, so other comments about that?
If I think we have to consider Dave Chipman's letter in regard to this and his concern that the article that follows this completely contradicts or does away with this article if it's approved.
Correct.
And it eliminates the need for it. And I don't know how we're going to coordinate those two articles. Needs to be, but if this article is approved and it gives the town a year to do it, then the next article is going to say we want to demolish it. And so I agree with Dave that it don't coordinate very well. I can't get the right word that I want, but this article asks us to give a year to some nonprofit or other and to come up with a way to finance this thing. And I agree, we need to have the financial information there, let people see what the scope of it is. But then if the very next article says we're going to vote to demolish and that's approved, and that obviates Article 3 here. So
your question really is that or concern is that each one is acted on independently. One can negate the other, as opposed to them being sequential. For instance, if the town said to see if the town will vote to authorize for a nonprofit entity, and then the next article says if the town rejects Article 3, if Article 3 fails, Article 4 is to see if the town will vote to appropriate money.
does it say that? I didn't think it said if it failed.
No. What I'm saying is
Yes.
it should suggest that they put that in.
Yes.
And you see that on town meeting warrants pretty regularly.
Yeah, the last bunch of them do like that.
Yeah, they usually put an explanation that says the next two articles, one or the other. They can put an explanatory before that.
Mhm.
You vote for the first one, you're voting to rehabilitate the building. If you're voting for the second one, you're voting to demolish it.
Both of them need to have financial information available because the rehab is going to be required no matter which way it goes. Whether it's a nonprofit or whether it's the town. And I think that information has to be there so it's clear to people that this is a given, that no matter what we do with that building, it has to be rehabbed.
No,
Other bad stuff.
No, I don't understand that, Mose. Could you explain that more?
Well, if you look at the Beacon report, it gives you different ways to go about it. I think three options 3. And in one about demolishing, you don't have to rehab it or clean it. You don't have to rehab it. You have to clear it out, clean it up, and then spend extra to demolish. If you're just going to reuse the building, it has to be cleaned up and get rid of all the bad stuff or anybody to go in there and do anything. So the only additional cost that really is in play here is the demolition cost. And it doesn't, I don't think that the article says that the town is going to put the bill and cleaned up and ready to go for profit. I thought MCOG wanted them to put cost for everything was involved, including the rehabilitation.
In that article, I forget, is there cost outlined for what it would take for each individual choice? I remember reading something about the remediation would cost, I don't know, I think 3 million something. Is there cost for clearing the building and removing it? And is there cost for, I don't know, there was a third option, but are the costs clearly defined in this article?
Start towards the end of their report that breaks it all down as to how they came up with it.
I remember reading that, but I thought that I vaguely remember that being a summation of the remediation. I don't remember there being anything regarding tearing it down and removing it.
You want to answer that, Don?
There are 3 options that were put forth in the Beacon report, which was how to clean up the building.
Right.
Option 1 was you don't do anything to the building, you just seal it up and keep it for future use, which we're not entertaining.
Okay.
2 is to remediate the hazardous material and then rehabilitate, and then you could go on and rehabilitate the building. They gave an estimated cost for that. They quantified it, or they qualified it by saying, you may get in there and find you have to remove more of the red brick around the windows if you have to chase hazmat. The third option is you knock the building down and you remove it. Inherent is that, included in that cost is that all the hazmat material goes. In other words, we are left with a clean site that we can do anything on.
And that's what I'm asking. I don't remember there in that report, that exact amount, that figure that they have come up with for that option.
About 200,000, I think it was like 160 to 207 or something.
Versus the 3 million to remediate and
And rehabilitate.
rehab.
But let's clarify that the 3 million is not the town, per the article, is not something the town would have to pay. The town is looking for somebody to take that on and
Right.
be able to fund that through their nonprofit status and also.
Presumably, that would be that group, that entity that wants to move in.
We don't know. We have no particular information. It's just there may be a nonprofit that it's a very sloppy soup. It doesn't make there's not a lot of there in the question of the nonprofits and what they actually would do. The town will still have costs to set the building up, maybe with a well and septic, for instance. There will be some cost to the town, but what the town is asking here is that it's taking a year to find a nonprofit that can raise the money to renovate the building, take care of all, and renovate the building means get rid of the hazmat, remediate the site, clean up lead paint around the outside, everything. That just goes with the program. And then be able to manage the use of the building. So the town is basically sort of leasing to a nonprofit who then leases to whomever they can find, which is kind of sloppy.
And in regards to Dave Chipman's request in his letter, is there a reason we have to entertain a full year? Can we change the article to say they have 6 months and then in March we deal with this again?
We certainly could. We can recommend that.
Well, that would be my recommendation.
All right. Anybody else have thoughts about that?
Sounds like a second for me.
Sounds like a
Kathy seconds.
The 6 month.
Yes.
Yeah.
Philip has his hand up.
okay, Phil.
Did
Had you
we,
blocked,
where we
sorry.
leave? I thought we were gonna make number 6 if 5 passes or doesn't pass or whichever. Make it conditional on 5. I thought this is what you talked about a minute ago.
Right. They would have to put some sort of a qualifier paragraph before those 2 warrant articles saying, these 2 refer to the admin building. You vote for one, basically you're voting for one or the other, to remediate, rehabilitate, or to demolish and leave a clean site.
Well, 5 says to lease it to nonprofit in order to present a proposal. That's what they're going to do, and that won't come at any cost to the town, I don't suppose. And then 6 is to tear it down. It seems like that 6 has to give them the year, or let that lease go through, and then I mean that would be easy language to make one conditional on the other.
I'm not completely sure I'm following, but what I was saying is that, and what you're calling Article 6, which is about the demolition cost, right? Is that what you're calling it?
Mine, number 6, talks about demolition. Yes.
Demolition, right. So at the very least, if Article 5, to look for the nonprofit, does not pass, then if Article 5 fails, Article 6 asks the town to ask, I don't know what language they'll use, ask that the town vote to appropriate up to X number of dollars for the demolition. But it is a little bit tricky, I think, doing those 2 things when you're with that language, because if you wait a year or if you wait whatever time period they wait and at the end of that 1 year time period, no nonprofit shows up, then Article 6 should automatically take effect.
Kicked in,
And we need
right.
to find a way to make that language. They need to find a way. Do you see what I'm saying, Phil?
Yeah,
Is
that'll
that
work.
same what you were saying?
Yeah, well, that wasn't what I was saying, but that's a good idea too.
Because you just can't leave it floating. And the problem with this, like many things to do with Mitchell Fields, that things get left to float. The admin building's been floating for years. Boat launch has been floating, with a little bit of paddling for years. And so if Article 5 fails, and then you go right to Article 6, and the town asks for the appropriation to demolish. If Article 5 passes, and after a year nothing happens, then we need a way to there need to be a circuit breaker sort of thing, or if that's the right word, to
It's something about a successful, if the proposal is not successful in paragraph 5, then 6 would appropriate money to tear it down.
yeah, we need to that's an additional condition. Article
I still think though we need to clarify for people that tearing it down is not as simple as getting an excavator in there and knocking the bricks down. Gonna have to clean the building up. They got to be remediated before
Oh,
No.
all the hazmat stuff.
No,
is
no, you don't.
done.
No,
It's all part of it.
They'll
I thought-
take it down. They will take the entire building to a hazardous waste dump.
Right, but
They'll
that's
separate
gonna
out the steel.
require some special work. They just
No,
can't
that's-
knock it down and haul it away.
That's
they can. I was there when the guy he said the only difference between with the demolition thing is if there was hazardous waste identified in it, it would go to a different landfill to be handled. But you don't have to do anything. You just
So then that means that that's less expensive than remediation, and I thought the remediation costs were included in the demolition too.
No.
Okay,
no, it's just take it all away. And I already identified what hazardous wastes are in there, and so they would go to a different landfill.
Okay.
And it'd be handled. Yeah,
that needs to be explained to the people before the article's voted on.
well, that can be done at the town meeting.
Yeah, or
Any
put
comments
something
from
in
the
the warrant.
selectmen? And
I think-
somebody needs to explain that,
I think the numbers should be there for people to see how much it's gonna cost for each of these options
Can
Yeah.
I-
based on the report.
Kathy has her hand up, sort of.
Go.
I'm just wondering how the citizens of Harpswell will take having two huge price tags presented to them at the same time, the boat launch and the admin building. It seems to me one or the other would take precedent.
I
Well,
think you ask for
yeah.
everything and then let people determine what they're willing to bear.
yeah, it is a lot, Kathy, but these things are just all falling in our, they're all just here right in front of us now, and the town needs to make some decisions so we can move forward, because otherwise we'll just be,
Twirling
drifting around.
Okay,
You okay with that?
yes.
I mean, that's for everybody to decide. It's too much, and I'm only willing to fund the boat launch, and I'm not willing to do anything for anybody else. So go ahead. That could be a result. Kathy, Jay?
Is there any reason we couldn't, in this large bond that we're talking about, just incorporate enough money to do both things, since it is the waterfront project? No, they have to be two separate things. Okay,
Dawn can speak to that.
Bond has to specifically identify what you're gonna do with the money, and it doesn't get to do anything else. So I don't think they would tie them together. If you're gonna tie it to a project, people would probably say, I don't necessarily wanna fund them both. They would address each one. In the case of Article 2, which is the one about the boat launch with the general obligation bond, they would issue that bond, and the financial statement will tell you what the impact is on the taxes. The bonds usually spread out over 20 years.
I'm sorry, Mose, I just have one follow-up. I thought, I guess I'm under the impression that if you're gonna go for a bond, you might as well go for the bond instead of asking for 800,000. Why wouldn't we ask for the million? And say we're cleaning up we're reconfiguring the waterfront, and the bond, you frame it as it's one project. I don't understand why we could not do that. And yet if this is not the right forum for you to answer that question, then that's fine, but I don't understand why we couldn't combine the bond, make it $1 million, bring it out over 20 years and get the whole damn project done and call it the waterfront project.
Partly because, and I'll turn it back to you, Dawn, because is that if people said, I want to do the boat launch, but I don't want to do the building, then they're going to reject the bond altogether. And then you're screwed. So you got to have the bond apply to the specific
So you want it
thing.
to be like a clean bill.
Well, I think that thinking about it from the perspective of the bond holder, if that's the right term, they want to know exactly what their money is going to pay for. So the project, the borrowers who you're taxing my financial skills here, but when a bond is, the town gets a bond from a bond dealer, so to speak, and they're going to say, I'm going to loan you this money. You're going to pay me back X, but I'm also going to be selling that bond out to the market, the financial markets, and they're going to, try and make a profit on it. They want to know exactly what the bond is for. You don't buy a house and also a car with a loan unless it's some kind of a home equity loan that you're borrowing against some other property. You know what I'm saying? They want to know.
I do understand.
Okay, so that's what they're going to tell us anyway. Terry will say the bond is going to be the bond for X, for the specific project. That's
all right.
I don't think
I don't
think we're getting anywhere with that.
Okay.
Most.
Go back to what Phil said and what Jay's getting at. If we had both of these issues come up to be approved or disapproved or whatever, and it's going to take a year, for instance, for the amount of time for the nonprofit to get its act together. In the meantime, Bill was concerned about people from Cundy's Harbor being opposed to anything at Mitchell Field. They are not opposed to boat launch. And if we get the fishing community motivated enough to come and speak in favor of the launch, because they need it and they want it, and the commercial haulers want it, I think that could help the launch issue pass. And in the meantime, the town could put a year out there to get the nonprofits deal with an admin building now or a year from now. But in the meantime, the launch is critical for what everybody in town is doing on the waterfront.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that works in our favor if we can get the fishing to get active in supporting this.
Do we need to have some sort of a motivational drive? Like, I mean, I'll go knock on doors.
Well, that's not what we're here to talk about.
Okay, fine.
Really,
yeah.
that's
Yep.
That's you're raising a good point, but I think the town will tell you that we're going to do a bond for the specific project for the specific money, and if we want to go out and bond a year later because a nonprofit doesn't show up, then at the following follow-up town meeting, then they would say, well, we're going to bond, $250,000 to knock this building down.
Yeah. Do you know, are they going to do public hearings in advance of the town meeting?
There she is.
Our question is, are you going to do any town public meetings in advance of these warrant articles?
So I happened to catch some of your meeting earlier, and I wanted to clarify that the intent of the select board is to have these items voted on by secret ballot in November. At the same time, people go and vote for their candidates for various offices, federal and state. So there are required public hearings, which the town will hold. But this is not going to be an open floor town meeting. People will get ballots. They can vote absentee. They don't have to be at a specific meeting to vote. So I wanted to clarify that issue.
Thank you.
But
That was,
I may have missed some other things that you've been talking about, but I thought that needed clarification. And I should introduce that I am the town administrator, Christy Ayana, for those who are watching.
Christy, while you're here then,
Yeah, let me pull up a chair.
yeah, you might as well.
Give the lady a chair.
Okay, that answered that. So those public hearings, Jay, would be where you discuss the article and we can present the financials and the other questions that we've had. Those-
Okay,
So Christy, the question was raised as to whether a bond could cover multiple projects, as opposed to a bond for the boat launch and a bond for, let's say you were to demolish the building, for instance. You
couldn't we
could-
make it a
you-
waterfront project bond?
I mean, you could do that, but I think I heard someone else respond to the question, and I would agree with this. I think you run the risk of having the whole thing rejected. If you
Right, okay,
too much into this, I think you want to try to make the purpose really clear. I don't believe the town needs to bond if we decide to do demolition of the administration building. We've proposed that we use fund balance because I think we're talking about a couple $100,000. So we would not recommend bonding that amount. But
Okay,
we
that was-
recommend bonding
Yeah,
for
okay.
the gap that has arisen for the boat launch project.
okay, good.
Is that helpful?
That clear. Yeah, that's what we were after. So what we've been talking about a little bit here, Christy, since you're here, is that in particular, Article 5 and Article 6, one follows the other, 6 follows 5, but they're two distinct articles. And yet, if we're sort of thinking that if Article 5 passes, then Article 6 is moot. If Article 5 fails, then Article 6 comes into play, and you advanced wording could be if Article 5 fails, Article 6 asks that the town vote to appropriate up to blah, blah, blah. Then the additional question came up, going back to Article 5, if Article 5 passes, and a year from now, no nonprofit
Steps
comes
up.
forward, then how do we have something that automatically kicks 6 into play?
No, I think just listening to your conversation today, it seems as if a voter would be confused if the town presents both of these articles. So I don't know that the select board is going to want to propose both articles.
Oh.
It's very
Okay.
confusing. They may
No.
decide to propose one. For instance, if, let's just say they decided to propose Article 6, because that involves money that the town needs to be authorized to use, there could be a note that says, if you vote no, then the select board will spend up to a year working on what Article 5 says. So there are some ways to approach this that maybe would not be as confusing as having these two articles the way they're currently worded.
Okay, well, what does everybody think about that?
Good
I
idea.
agree.
Okay, so, and I do as well. I think that you're exactly right that Article 6 is very specific about money, which is what we all really make decisions on, most importantly. And you would just have to, the select board would have to add language that says if Article 6 fails, the town will do the following. And that's up to you guys to come up with that language.
But again, I don't know what the majority of the select board is.
Well,
going
I know,
to
but
decide. Yeah.
that
I
would be
don't-
that'll be our suggestion, I guess.
And I think there's another way to look at it. You could just put Article 5 out there. And then next November, there could be another article. if this 1 year time period is not met. So I think there's a sense, the way this was presented, to get the select board thinking about this and thinking about the timeline that they want the town to be on, and whether they want to give the town the option to go directly to demolition. I think these are the things that the board needs to be thinking about.
Yeah, for sure. And soon.
Yeah, or just one article that says, you know, you vote to demolish the building. If the no votes win, then the town will look to give a nonprofit 1 year to come up with the necessary funds to rehabilitate. At the end of that year, the building will be demolished. If nobody stepped forward.
So I think it's important to get your input, because I think just listening to your discussion, it sounds like voters could be confused by the way these two could be presented on a ballot.
Right. I mean, that was my presumption, was that these are the ones, and so we just need to comment on them. But I didn't realize that they may decide they could adjust the number of items and what they refer to. So, okay. So what do we think the options are for us in terms of, well, anything else anybody wants to ask Christie?
It's back in Christie's court at this point.
What's that?
It's kind of back in Christie and the select board's point, you know.
Well, it is, but they're going to want to hear from us, so we need to.
I mean, I think you may say that you think it's confusing to present both of those articles to the voter.
Could you not do
The
that?
way they're currently drafted. This is a draft. It was titled Draft Referendum Articles for Discussion and Consideration by the board for a possible November 5th vote. So, you know, they ultimately decide what to put in front of the voters. And I think they were interested particularly in getting feedback from your committee on articles that may pertain to Mitchell Field.
Can you do a secret ballot with two blocks? One says renovate and one says demolish, and they can only pick one or the other? In other words, have two circles, but you can only, like you do for a candidate. When there's a slate of candidates, you vote for one. Could you put them, you know, define both articles the way you have here, and then where the vote block is, you vote either for this one or you vote for that one?
I think we could word it in a way that yes means demolition and no means no. You know,
Okay.
I think we could construct an article that would cover that.
I mean, when we have a slate of candidates, it says select one.
If somebody might decide that's a ranked choice situation, then
Yeah,
we really get confused.
yeah, we're really not into ranked choice here. I do believe that the town has done its due diligence and it has had this report put together. There's a table in there that really lays out some of the costs in a pretty simplistic format, what it would cost to demolish, what it would cost to potentially renovate. You know, there's a lot of information in that report, and we're going to expect that the voters will do some work to educate themselves. Obviously, the town has a role to play in getting information out, but you know, people need to read that report, and that should answer some questions for them when they're going to step into the voting booth.
That's what I was thinking. You just have the two circles next to each other, and one says renovate and one says demolish, and they get to pick one block, not both.
Yeah, but it's going to be worded, because demolition involves money that the town is spending, so we need to be clear
Yeah.
about that.
I like Christie's idea earlier when she said, do the one thing this year and then do the, you know, the next one next year. We give them the year.
Suppose then nobody, that fails, we have to wait a year then to get around to demolishing and incur greater cost because of the time lapse.
Or I heard you earlier say, I don't know if you were talking about give these folks or the entities 6 months and have something on the March town meeting ballot.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, that's
There
That's
are
the way to
lots
go.
of ways to go about it, so.
I like that idea.
Well, I think we're fundamentally trying to avoid the process continuing to drag on.
Yes,
And,
yes.
you know, we're putting it in the voters' hands, and that's a good idea. It's time. We 2 years ago, we did a survey, and here we are now. It's 2 years later, and we need to decide what we're going to do, because every year we wait costs more money. And so reducing that 1 year period to 6 months is, you know, I think is a smart idea for the town. And but we still need people to be able to say, you know, I just don't want to do that. I want to do something else. I want to see it go. And so we've got to find a way to allow both to be voted on, I guess.
I mean, there's no question that the highest voter turnout will be in November. So if you really want to know where your voters stand, the November ballot is a really good opportunity to get articles in front of people. I mean, we know we have an annual town meeting in March, but every 4 years we have a presidential election, and that really drives voter turnout.
Well, I was wondering if you could say, you know, in other words, the explanation block at the top would say, this is an either or situation. If you choose to renovate, you know, then if you choose to renovate, you use your question or your warrant article in number 5. If you choose to demolish, you use the warrant article explanation in 6. And then there's only 2 circles. One says rehabilitate and one says demolish. You get to select one or the other.
It's got to be yes or no. It's
Okay.
yes or no is how people vote. Yes or no.
Okay.
You know, you could, well, we'll let Christie go. We have some talking to do about those 2 articles. So,
Could it say yes, renovate, no, demolish?
let's come back to that, Dawn. But you're going to drive Christie to drink here pretty soon.
So thank you all. I think this is a precursor to next week's discussion at the select board meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks,
Thanks.
Christie.
Bye.
Yeah. One of the things I was just thinking was, I think this is confusing for us to look at, because now that we know it's a secret ballot, and I had no idea it was going to be a secret ballot. Let's just look at Article 5. There'll be a yes and a no circle to mark. And so if you agree with number 5 to let that process go forward, you very carefully fill in the circle yes. And then so all these articles are going to have a yes and a no fill in block circle. So what do we do with Article 5 and 6? One option is to flip them and make Article 6 the first article, because it's a money question. And if people say, yeah, let's do that, then Article what now becomes Article 6 is moot. But either way you do it, if you say if the preceding article, whatever number we call it, fails, and we won't know if it fails because until they count all the votes, but the town will see that if the first article fails, the second article kicks into gear, the town will know that, and they go forward with what they got to do, the town being the town staff. Does that make sense?
No.
No.
You have to have a yes or no for each one. So people, if you had 2 articles, people could vote no on both of them. Nothing yet. So
well, I don't think we want that. We got to.
No, we don't. But
that's what I'm saying, Moses. Well, if people are going to read both articles and they want to vote no on both of them, there's nothing we can do about that.
I agree.
I don't know how you can avoid that, but I don't think that's really going to be the case. I mean, there may be some outliers who just feel like saying no is more fun than anything in the whole world, but
Not in Cundy's Harbor.
no, I didn't mean Cundy's Harbor.
If they vote yes on 5 and no on 6, then the proposal will be presented and fail. And then the building will be sitting there with nothing going forward.
If you say yes on 5,
Yeah,
As-
if you give them the ability to take a year to present a proposal,
yeah,
and if they present a proposal that fails, to be successful, and then if 6 has failed, you'll be right where we are now,
The building will just be sitting.
right?
well, the other thing is if oh God, if Article 5 gets 100 votes and Article 6 gets 102 votes, then Article 6 is the one that the town has to go with. It's a majority opinion. It would be just like, it would be like raising your yellow cards at town meeting. That's exactly what that would be like. When you get to do it private.
But Philip just said the year thing again. Have we determined that the 6-month is a better option?
Well,
I haven't.
can we take a straw poll on that just so we see where we're at?
Okay, I'm at 6 months.
All those
Kathy,
in favor of 6 months?
Kathy,
Kathy,
are you in favor of 6 months or a year?
I think 6 months.
Kathy's at 6
Okay,
months.
okay.
also.
And all those in favor of a year? Okay, so where do we want to go with that? I mean, we're not making a rule here, but Bob?
If somebody wants to give money, they're gonna do it. If you give them a year to do it, they'll wait till the 11th month to do it. If
That's
someone
right.
wants to give you $1 million, you'll say yes tomorrow. So I don't see what the delay, if somebody wants to donate, they're gonna do it within the 6 months.
I would say I'm not in favor of either. I think this has been strung out too long, but I would rather, if I could only choose 6 months or a year, I'd go with 6 months. I'd rather go for nothing and just cut it off at the knees right now.
Okay. All
It
right,
still comes down to what the Board of Selectmen decide to do, both on the wording of the warrants and whether they're gonna take 6 months or a year. I think despite what we need to do to say, we think that shortening the time makes more sense to keep process moving. And then if it doesn't work in 6 months, then we don't have to spend quite as much money to demolish the building.
okay, that's fine.
okay, crazy. I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but it's 5 months between November and March. What if we put 5 months and when we get the answer in November, then we can move forward with the next step in March?
Or you can just put a deadline on it if that's the case.
They can just put a 6-month deadline.
I know, but then we've missed the March vote if we
Oh, it's
need.
gonna
And
be
we
March.
probably don't have time to wait for that and get a warrant prepared. So we probably couldn't get it March vote anyway.
Okay,
Yeah, because as Christie pointed out, you normally have public hearings. And I think they have to be 30 days in advance.
Okay, so that would put it, if we put in 6 months, then it means it really gets listened to in June, the special town meeting.
Right.
So as we did in the our response to the MCOG report, I spoke of the majority opinion is that that reduce the 1-year time period to 6 months. And I'm sorry, Phil, but you're losing out on that one again too in terms of our recommendation.
Gonna recommend that we don't have the vote on the demolition then? Or just
It-
vote only on going 12?
You were breaking up a little bit. What are you?
What's our recommendation gonna be about the other article? We're gonna recommend that they not put that on the warrant this number? Or that they do, like it's proposed?
You're breaking up a little bit, Mose, when you're talking, but I still think that if the select board chooses both articles, then we need to qualify Article 6 as it currently stands, which is appropriation, the appropriation. So if Article 5 fails, Article 4 or Article 6 asks the town to blah, blah, blah.
If Article 5 passes, and there is no entity within 1 year, or 6 months, or 7 months, 10 months, whatever they put in there, then, you know, the article could say, then the town would move forward with demolition.
Okay,
That's
you,
the-
Mr. Miskell, and I will work on that wording.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, anything else on those two at this point?
pretty well beat up.
And, you know, I mean, on the piece about how long the time frame should be, 6 months or a year, whatever, we can certainly include, you know, Bill's vote for 1 year, say, not every
Well,
6 months.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no, some similar to what we did.
Right, we want to make everybody heard.
And we'll include Sharon's voice as well on that. So we're all right. So if we're okay with that, let's move on to the solar project. See if the town will vote to authorize the select board to enter in a multi-year lease agreement not to exceed 25 years for a commercial solar farm not to exceed 15 acres at Mitchell Field on terms and conditions that the select board deems to be in the best interest of the town.
How do we get from 5 to 15? Just
Well, that was my question, Mose, and it was answered by going to the recording of the July, what meeting was that? August something, select board meeting. And everything was going along at 5 acres per our recommendation. Gary Vincent of Harpswell suggested that there's no harm in offering 15 acres to see what would happen. And Howie Marshall, who's the chair of the Energy and Technology Committee, who signed off on our original letter to the town, said, well, I don't see what 15 acres would hurt either. That to me was a real slap in the face to what we, as the Mitchell Field Committee, recommends. And ultimately, the Mitchell Field is what gets impacted here. And we were all pretty clear through the joint committee meeting, whatever, that that it would be a 5 acre recommendation, 5 acre project. And the expression of interest letter went out, 5 acre project. I felt like there was, I think you could go back and watch it, there was no discussion as to whether it was, when the 15 acre proposal was made, the select board just said, sounds okay to me. If they see it differently, they can call me up. So I think we should go back to the 5 acres personally. I just think that's not right to ask us to do all that work and to put a lot of thought into it and then change it on us. Now I know they just asked for our recommendation, but they got everything they asked for, which was a draft expression of interest letter and more names to contact about doing a project at Mitchell Field than you could count. And they just 15 acres at Mitchell Field is way more than one meadow.
That is it's the entire upper meadow, not taking the community garden plot. It's every.
Wow.
I'm
Right.
sorry.
I said, wow. I have to say that
Upper
there
meadow,
were,
just 20 acres.
for them to jump like that without, I mean, why did they go to 15 instead of 10 or,
Are you sure that's not a typo?
yeah,
No,
it's
it's
not a
absolutely
typo.
15. I've
that's
talked
a
to the
good
town.
question.
Yeah.
So
No,
I
it's
will say
15.
that, I'm sorry, Spike, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Whoever asked if it was a typo, it is 15 acres. I've talked to Christie and I've talked to Christie about it.
Well, why wouldn't
Watching,
that be our comment about it? Then that it ought to go back to 5.
Well,
I think even 5 is
Jay
much.
was trying to get in. Jay, go ahead.
so I was monitoring some of the Harpswell Town Facebook pages, and I'm not sure where we are in this process. I don't still, I don't understand the government, what you guys do, really. But there are people that are really peeved and literally outraged that the town is considering putting a solar field in. So at what point does this go to vote?
This goes to vote here, right?
In March, I
Through
mean,
this-
in November.
In November, and there'll be public hearings on all the articles, and you know, it is what it is in front of us. And I think the only thing we can ask is that they go back to the 5 acres. And I don't have any other suggestions for them. There's a lot of reason,
I think we need to make it very clear, the public meeting, even if we are the outliers, that 15 acres destroys half the field that's open for recreational use now. Town has already told us passive recreation is what everybody seems to prefer. Not enough money in the world, and I don't think there's enough money savings in electrical use offset the loss of that property, considering how large it is and the fact that it's on the water.
And isn't there
Once
a
it's
toxic
used, it's
waste?
gone.
Sorry. Isn't there a toxicity to component to having these solar panels in the field?
listen, we can talk about all that stuff, but basically the warrant article is what we have to respond to. And
Yeah.
we've already told them how we feel about the solar.
Tell them again in bold.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
Tell them again, and our concerns, and I think the 5 acres.
Yeah, Spike,
And-
I know at town meeting, when the warrant comes out, there is, the place for where it says if the committee or the board recommended it. If this were on the November ballot, would there be an opportunity to at least put that, say the Mitchell Field Committee
To
does or
say
does not recommend
not
this?
recommended by the Mitchell Field Committee?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great idea.
good point. Good point, Sharon.
And then I think that could come out in, I would imagine, in the public hearings as well, but.
Yeah.
And I think for some people, whether it's 5 or 15, it would not make a difference on how they vote on it.
Yeah.
Are you waving or you have a question?
Yeah, I was, and that's something I was trying to say at one of those last meetings we had, that we should let them know that the majority of us are not in favor of it at all. Not 15%, no way. 5%, I'm still not in favor of that. And I think we should have just put our opinion that the majority of us don't think a solar field belongs at Mitchell Field because it's a gem of a beauty there. That was my opinion last time. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can say, we've heard from a lot of people. We don't necessarily know that the majority of the people are, as Christie said, that will be determined when they vote.
Yep.
The concern that I had, and I talked briefly with Spike earlier today, was there was a proposal a while back by Gary Vincent and somebody else that it should be 5 megawatts. 5 acres gives you 1 megawatt. So now we're at 15, so we're at 3 megawatts of power. And at the time when we did our meeting with CMP, 5 megawatts required a complete upgrade of the transmission lines up Route 123 to the substation. So by expanding this to 15 acres, my question was, okay, do those lines handle 3 megawatts, or are they back because the contractor who builds the solar field has to pay for the upgrade of the line all the way to the substation if that's required? It wasn't enough to just say, how about 15? There are some real impacts, because Howard at our joint meeting said 1 megawatt was okay and the lines could handle that. So I don't know what the answer is on 3. And the upper meadow is 20 acres. Spike did a draw around on Google Earth. And, that would essentially be all of the upper meadow, both tiers, except for the community garden.
That's the point that I tried to make last time. You talk about 5% of 112 acres is seemed like a lot. talk about 5 acres out of 20.
Yeah.
That's half the field, open and available. The rest of it's not usable except woods and water. So I think we have to make that distinction that it may just sound like not a lot of acreage total, but when you put it on the field and lay it out with an overlay, what it really comes down to, it would destroy the whole concept of the recreational use.
Correct.
All set?
I think so.
Good.
Anybody,
My
anybody
cat's
has any
getting
other
hungry.
comments on the solar? Kathy, was she trying to get in?
She said she was agreeing with me.
Yes, you know where I stand, Spike.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Thank
I
you.
do have one comment. Is there a way for us to include a diagram so people understand visually how much 5 acres is versus 15? Because I don't really think a lot of people understand that concept of an acre.
Well,
Public
we could
hearings.
do that. We could do that, and we could create a picture board, if you will, for public meetings, so people can see not only what's at stake acreage wise, but also get images of solar fields and what they actually look like. I mean, all you have to do is go to Brunswick Landing and see them there, and they're surrounded by chain link fence, with barbed wire. I mean, you can't. It's not some sweet little green kind of a thing. This is an industrial project, essentially what it is.
Right.
Spike, I just wanted to clarify, we're just putting something on the warrant, assuming even if it passed, there would, and even if the town got a real viable proposal, that would still need to go before town meeting again, right?
No, we're just authorizing the select board to enter into an agreement.
Oh,
with this-
enter
with
into an
this-
agreement,
Yeah,
not just
enter into
solicit,
a
okay.
multi-year lease agreement not to exceed 25 years. So it's a big deal.
Wow. Yeah, okay.
And what I think they need to put in is what are the potential terms of a lease?
Mm-hmm.
Typical terms of a lease. They could use some word, because what Revision Energy has proposed garners the town $8,000 a year, which is absurd.
Yeah.
Is there
And the
a
town gets no
way-
benefit from the electricity. I mean, it just goes out to the grid.
I guess, is there a way to, and I don't, I think we all know what we feel about this, but is there a way to get this out, to basically to authorize the select board to entertain, submissions should they come forward, but still require them to go back for final agreement at another town meeting? Or is this?
I don't think that's,
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
if Christie were here, she'd probably come up with 5 different ways that we could do
Yeah,
that.
okay,
But
yeah.
I think realistically,
Right.
That would effectively be putting a roadblock up to
Right.
doing the development from a developer's point of view, wouldn't you think?
Exactly.
And yeah. Oh, Sharon.
Yeah.
So yeah,
This is sort of a final vote, one way or the other.
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
But have we be assured that, as others were saying, that there would be ample time to let the public know exactly how impactful this would be?
Yeah, we have to figure out what the public hearing process is actually going to be, and is it going to be a public hearing about each specific item, or is it going to be this sort of a general free-for-all about all the articles at one public hearing, which would be kind of a disaster.
Right.
It'll be a secret
Yeah.
vote. But
After,
this one,
after this meeting today, we've got our work cut out for us.
Yeah.
Got to garner the information. Can't be too long, but if we can get a 1-pager or a 1-pager and a couple of diagrams or whatever, and then we can put it on a board that people can look at. And so we've got work to do.
All leaves are canceled until further notice.
Oh
I'm
no,
gonna feed my cat.
no, it's all leave is canceled until morale improves.
Yes, okay. Okay, is everybody satisfied with what we've gone through today and, feel like, okay with Don and I try and summarize this and then we'll get it to you as quickly as possible? You can give
Tomorrow
us-
morning would be good.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Mose. Um,
I'll be hauling brush.
And this has to be ready for September 3rd?
yeah, because they want to have it in time for the September 5th,
Oh,
select
God
board
bless you.
meeting.
You didn't have anything to do this weekend, did you?
Is it the weekend already? God. Yeah, we can knock it out pretty well.
All right, I'm good.
So we'll get it to you. You guys will all be around apparently, because you Labor Day weekend and all that. So
Yep.
We'll get it to you. We'll take your feedback, corrections, edits as usual, and then Don and I will put it to the town.
Out to the door.
Just as a note, I will not be anywhere where there is reception. I will not be able to check email. I will be almost up to the Canadian border. So if you don't hear from me, it's simply because I just didn't receive emails. I will be home Sunday evening.
Okay. Yeah, well, you'll see it then.
Okay.
Can I drive you?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you don't want to tell us where you're going, do you?
He's escaping
Oh,
from.
don't do that. This is a public meeting, public hearing. So, okay. Anything else from anybody? Good. Thank you, Kathy, for hanging in there.
Yep.
To the town administrator,
Thank you all.
whoever's handling today's meeting.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Okay,
Okay.
bye.
All right.
Bye.
We're signing off. Thank you all very much. Appreciate you taking the time.